No plan. No progress. Progress does not happen by chance. It happens when you decide to stop drifting, define where you are going, and create a clear plan that turns your intentions into consistent action, because without structure the mind becomes scattered and the days lose direction, but with a plan every step gains purpose, focus, and momentum. This audiobook will guide you to understand that planning is not a burden but a powerful tool that simplifies your decisions, strengthens your habits, and accelerates your growth, allowing you to take control of your life instead of being controlled by circumstances. If you value content that supports your personal development and inspires disciplined action, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss an audiobook that helps you move closer to the future you want. Chapter 1. You become what you schedule. Your life is shaped far more by what you consistently schedule than by what you occasionally desire, because the structure of your days quietly determines the structure of your future, and the routines you repeat eventually become the identity you live with. Many people hold powerful dreams in their minds, yet their days are filled with habits, distractions, and routines that do not support those dreams, and this disconnect is the reason progress feels difficult or inconsistent. When your schedule does not align with your goals, your life drifts into patterns that maintain your current situation instead of elevating you toward the life you want. A schedule is not just a list of tasks, it is a declaration of priorities, a blueprint of who you are becoming, and a system that ensures your energy is invested in the right direction. When you intentionally allocate time for growth, learning, self-discipline, and meaningful work, you reinforce the identity of someone who takes their dreams seriously, and your mind begins to adapt to the structure you create. The simple act of planning your day builds momentum because it eliminates the mental chaos that comes from constantly deciding what to do next, allowing you to step into action with clarity instead of hesitation. You become stronger, more focused, and more capable when your schedule reflects the values and outcomes you want to embody, because consistency is what transforms effort into results. Every hour intentionally organized pulls you closer to a higher standard, while every hour left unstructured invites distraction to take control of your direction. When you wake up each day knowing exactly what matters and when you will do it, you give yourself an advantage that most people never experience: the power of intentional living. If you want lasting change, do not rely on motivation alone. Rely on a well-structured schedule that guides your behavior even on days when your feelings fluctuate, because discipline thrives when there is a clear framework supporting it. A well-planned day becomes a well-lived week, a well-lived week becomes a well-lived month, and a well-lived month becomes a future shaped by purpose and deliberate action. Your schedule is more than an organizational tool, it is the quiet architect of your destiny, and whether you realize it or not, you are always becoming the result of how you spend your time. Chapter 2. Planning creates direction, direction creates momentum. A plan gives your life a clear direction, and direction is the force that turns intention into momentum, because when you know exactly where you are going, your mind becomes far more organized, your decisions become simpler, and your energy begins to move with purpose instead of being scattered across countless distractions. Most people struggle not because they are incapable or unwilling to grow, but because they are walking through life without a defined path, reacting to whatever comes their way and wondering why progress feels inconsistent, unstable, or painfully slow. Without direction, even hard work can become unproductive, because effort without focus often leads to exhaustion without meaningful results. Planning eliminates guesswork by giving your mind a target to aim at, and the moment your mind has a target, it begins to filter your choices, behaviors, and habits toward that target automatically. You think more clearly, you act more decisively, and you stop wasting time on activities that do not support your goals, because direction teaches you how to prioritize, what to ignore, and where to channel your energy for maximum impact. Once you create a plan, you no longer move through your days unsure of what matters most. You move with intention, and that intention builds a natural form of momentum that becomes stronger each time you follow your structure. Momentum is not something you wait for. It is something you create by taking a planned step forward, then another and another, until movement becomes easier than stopping. The human mind thrives on progress, even small progress, and when your plan shows you what the next step is, you remove the friction that comes from uncertainty, which is one of the biggest barriers to action. A clear plan reduces hesitation and emotional resistance because you no longer ask yourself, "What should I do?" The plan answers that question for you, allowing you to simply execute. Direction also prevents you from being pulled into other people's priorities, expectations, and emergencies, because when you know your path, it becomes easier to say no to anything that pulls you away from it. Every plan you create strengthens your capacity to stay focused, protect your time, and build a life that reflects your own values rather than the demands of others. With each planned action, your confidence grows, your discipline becomes more stable, and your sense of control deepens, because you finally see yourself moving towards something intentional rather than drifting through life without a defined purpose. Planning does not guarantee immediate success, but it guarantees consistent movement, and consistent movement is ultimately what builds results that last. When your days align with your direction, time becomes your greatest asset instead of your biggest source of stress. The more you plan, the clearer your path becomes, and the clearer your path becomes, the faster you move along it, creating a cycle of progress that reinforces itself. Your life expands in the direction of your planning, and the more intentional your structure, the stronger your momentum becomes, because clarity is the foundation of speed, and direction is the foundation of lasting transformation. Chapter 3. Clarity is the foundation of all achievement. Clarity is the cornerstone of every meaningful achievement, because without a clear understanding of what you want, why you want it, and how you intend to pursue it, your mind becomes overwhelmed with uncertainty, scattered by distractions, and drained by constant indecision. Most people are not defeated by a lack of ability but by a lack of focus, and they spend their days moving in circles because their goals are vague, their direction is uncertain, and their internal world is filled with noise that blocks their ability to take consistent action. When you lack clarity, even simple tasks feel heavy, hesitation becomes a daily habit, and your confidence weakens because you are never fully sure if the steps you are taking are the right ones. Clarity brings order to your thoughts, alignment to your actions, and structure to your growth, creating a mental environment where you can finally commit to a direction without doubting yourself every few minutes. The moment you define your goals with precision, your brain begins to filter out distractions and focus on patterns, opportunities, and solutions that support those goals, because the human mind is naturally drawn toward whatever is clearly understood. A vague vision produces vague results, but a clear vision produces specific, measurable, and consistent progress, simply because clarity eliminates the internal confusion that causes procrastination and mental fatigue. When you take the time to write down your goals in detail, you give your mind something solid to work with, transforming your ambitions from abstract desires into tangible targets that can be approached through deliberate action. Clarity allows you to stop wasting time on activities that do not serve your growth, because once you know what matters, you also know what does not. It becomes easier to say no to distractions, easier to create boundaries around your time, and easier to invest your energy into choices that support your long-term vision rather than your short-term impulses. With clarity, your emotions become more stable because uncertainty no longer controls your days. When you know where you are going, fear becomes quieter, anxiety loses its grip, and stress begins to dissolve, because much of the emotional pressure people carry comes from not knowing what to do next or whether they are moving in the right direction. Clarity gives you peace of mind by replacing doubt with certainty and replacing confusion with purpose, allowing you to move forward with confidence even when the path requires effort and patience. Clarity also strengthens your discipline, because when your goals are clearly defined, the reasons behind your actions become stronger than the excuses that try to stop you. You begin to act from intention rather than emotion, and you push through resistance because you understand exactly what you are working toward. Every decision becomes a reflection of your vision, and every day becomes an opportunity to move closer to the life you intentionally designed. Achievement is never accidental. It is the predictable result of clear goals, focused action, and sustained commitment. The more clarity you bring into your life, the more powerfully you align your habits, your schedule, and your mindset with the future you want. When clarity becomes your foundation, progress becomes inevitable because the mind performs at its highest level when it knows precisely what it is aiming for. Chapter 4. The discipline of showing up with intention. Discipline is not merely the act of completing tasks. It is the intentional decision to show up for your future even when your present feelings try to pull you in a different direction, because true discipline is built on commitment, not emotion. When you show up with intention, you are not acting out of pressure or obligation but out of a clear understanding that every deliberate action you take is shaping the person you are becoming. Many people struggle with consistency because they rely on motivation, but motivation is unstable and unpredictable, while intention is steady, grounded, and deeply connected to your purpose. Showing up with intention means you begin each day knowing exactly what you are here to do, why it matters, and how it contributes to your long-term growth, and this clarity transforms your actions from random efforts into meaningful steps that build momentum. Instead of allowing distractions, inconveniences, or temporary emotions to dictate your behavior, you anchor yourself in the reality that progress requires persistent effort, and effort becomes easier when it is supported by a clear purpose. Intention gives discipline its strength, because when you understand the meaning behind your actions, consistency becomes a natural result rather than a forced routine. Discipline grows the moment you stop asking whether you feel like doing something and start reminding yourself why it must be done, because feelings are temporary but your purpose is long-term. When you show up with intention, you take control away from impulses and hand it back to your goals, ensuring that your actions reflect the future you want rather than the mood you are in. This shift in mindset elevates your identity, because each time you follow through on your intentions, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who honors commitments, someone who follows through, and someone who takes their growth seriously. Intention also brings a higher quality to your work, because when you understand why a task matters, you give it your full attention and energy instead of rushing through it or approaching it mindlessly. You become more focused, more present, and more efficient, because purpose sharpens your mind in a way that external pressure never can. Each intentional action becomes a statement of self-respect, a reminder that your goals deserve your best effort and your future deserves your full commitment. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about returning to your intentions even after you slip, because setbacks are never a sign of failure but an opportunity to strengthen your resolve. When you build your discipline on intention, you do not collapse under pressure or give up when life becomes difficult. Instead, you learn to realign, recommit, and continue moving forward with clarity and determination. This resilience is what separates those who make consistent progress from those who abandon their goals at the first sign of discomfort. Showing up with intention gradually transforms your life because it transforms your character, and once your character evolves, your outcomes naturally follow. You begin to trust yourself more deeply, because you can rely on your actions to match your values, and this alignment creates a sense of inner strength that cannot be shaken by external challenges or temporary obstacles. When intention becomes the foundation of your discipline, you no longer operate from force or willpower alone. You operate from purpose, and purpose is the fuel that carries you through every season of life. Your discipline is a reflection of how seriously you take your future, and the more intentionally you show up, the faster your life shifts into alignment with the vision you hold within you. With intention behind your actions, consistency becomes easier, progress becomes predictable, and success becomes a matter of time rather than a question of possibility. Chapter 5. Your environment must support your plan. Your environment is one of the most powerful influences on your progress, because no matter how strong your intentions are, they will always be shaped, strengthened, or weakened by what surrounds you daily. Many people underestimate how deeply their environment affects their discipline, their mindset, and their ability to stay committed to a plan, yet your surroundings quietly determine whether your goals become easier to achieve or harder to maintain. Your environment can push you forward or hold you back, empower you or distract you, and until you take control of it, you will always be battling forces that make progress more difficult than it needs to be. A supportive environment is not created by chance. It is intentionally crafted to reinforce your goals and remove anything that competes with your focus. When your physical space is organized, your mind becomes more stable and less overwhelmed. When your digital world is clean and distraction-free, your attention becomes stronger. And when your social environment is filled with people who uplift your vision rather than drain your energy, your motivation becomes easier to sustain. Every part of your environment is either aligned with your plan or working against it, and recognizing this truth is a major turning point in personal growth. If you want consistency, you must design surroundings that make the right actions simple and the wrong actions difficult. Because willpower alone is not enough to fight an environment that constantly pulls you away from your goals. Your environment should remind you of who you want to become, not who you used to be. This can mean decluttering your space so your mind can breathe, limiting access to distractions that steal your time, choosing routines that create structure, and distancing yourself from negative influences that constantly interrupt your progress. These adjustments are not small. They are strategic moves that protect your future from unnecessary friction. Your environment also includes the information you consume, the conversations you entertain, and the mindset of the people you surround yourself with, because all of these elements influence your beliefs, your perspective, and your level of discipline. Being around people who complain, procrastinate, or avoid responsibility makes it harder to stay committed to your plan, while being around individuals who value growth, discipline, and clarity naturally strengthens your own habits. You do not need a perfect environment, but you do need one that aligns with your goals more than it distracts from them. A supportive environment reduces resistance, and reduced resistance increases consistency. When the tools you need are accessible, when your spaces are intentional, and when your surroundings reinforce your values, you stop wasting energy fighting unnecessary obstacles and begin devoting that energy to genuine progress. Your environment becomes a silent partner in your journey, constantly nudging you toward the actions that matter most. The truth is simple. If your environment does not support your plan, it will sabotage it. But when you consciously design your surroundings to reflect your goals, discipline becomes easier, focus becomes natural, and progress becomes the default outcome. When you change your environment, you change the conditions under which your future is built, and that single shift often becomes the catalyst for everything you will achieve next. Chapter 6. Eliminate what does not move you forward. Progress becomes significantly easier the moment you remove the people, habits, distractions, and commitments that do not contribute to your growth, because the truth is that most individuals are not overwhelmed by the amount of work they need to do, but by the amount of unnecessary noise they allow into their lives. Every goal you set requires energy, time, and focus, and anything that drains these resources without giving anything meaningful in return becomes an obstacle that slows your momentum. Elimination is not about loss. It is about freeing yourself from the weight of what no longer serves your vision. When you hold onto activities that distract you, habits that weaken you, or relationships that drain you, you create friction that makes discipline harder and progress slower. The human mind performs best when it is not constantly switching between tasks, fighting temptations, or battling environments that pull it off track. By removing what is unnecessary, you create mental space, emotional clarity, and physical energy that can finally be directed toward what truly matters. Progress is not only built through addition, it is equally built through subtraction. Eliminate distractions that steal your focus, because focus is one of the greatest advantages you can give yourself. This includes digital distractions, unproductive routines, and any behaviors that consume hours of your day but contribute nothing to your long-term growth. Eliminating these distractions is not about restriction but about liberation, because you are freeing your time and attention from things that never deserved them in the first place. When you take control of your attention, your productivity increases naturally, not through force but through clarity. Eliminate commitments that do not align with your priorities, because every obligation you accept becomes a piece of your life that must be managed. Many people stay stuck because they say yes to everything and then wonder why they have no energy left for what truly matters. Your time is limited, and the more you fill it with things that do not move you forward, the less space you have for the actions that can transform your life. Protecting your time is an act of self-respect, and learning to say no is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. Eliminate relationships that hold you back emotionally or mentally, because the people you surround yourself with have a direct influence on your discipline, your confidence, and your ambition. If someone constantly drains your energy, distracts you from your goals, or discourages your growth, keeping them close becomes a form of self-sabotage. You do not need to cut everyone out, but you do need to create boundaries that protect your peace, your focus, and your direction. The right people will support your plan. The wrong people will slowly pull you away from it. Eliminate habits that are incompatible with the future you want, because every habit either builds you or breaks you. Even small behaviors, staying up too late, procrastinating, avoiding responsibilities, engaging in negative self-talk, can accumulate into major obstacles. When you remove habits that weaken your discipline, you create the space needed for habits that strengthen it. The quality of your habits determines the quality of your outcomes. Elimination is a courageous act because it requires you to face the truth about what is holding you back. But once you begin removing what does not move you forward, your mind becomes clearer, your actions become more intentional, and your path becomes significantly more direct. You are no longer fighting against unnecessary resistance. Instead, you are walking a cleaner, lighter, more focused road. Progress does not come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right things, and removing the wrong things is how you make room for the right things to flourish. When you eliminate what does not serve your vision, you create a life that naturally supports your growth, your discipline, and your long-term success. Chapter 7. Planning reduces stress and mental chaos. Stress thrives in uncertainty, and mental chaos grows in the absence of structure, which is why planning is not simply a productivity tool but a powerful form of emotional stability. When your days have no direction, your mind becomes overloaded with decisions, doubts, and constant internal questioning, and this mental noise creates tension that drains your energy before you even begin your work. Planning brings order to your internal world, because it replaces confusion with clarity, replaces guessing with guidance, and turns overwhelming tasks into manageable steps that you can approach with confidence. Much of the stress people experience does not come from the work itself, but from not knowing when or how that work will be done. Without a plan, everything feels urgent, everything feels scattered, and everything competes for your attention at the same time. This creates anxiety, procrastination, and a sense of being behind even when you have barely started. When you create a clear plan, you reduce this emotional pressure instantly because your mind no longer needs to hold everything at once. A written plan becomes a container for your responsibilities, allowing your thoughts to settle instead of spinning endlessly. Mental chaos is often the result of too many open loops, unfinished tasks, forgotten obligations, unorganized priorities, and each of these loops occupies mental space. Planning closes these loops by assigning structure to your responsibilities and giving each task a place and a time. Once your mind knows that everything important has been accounted for, it becomes easier to relax, easier to concentrate, and easier to give your full attention to the task in front of you. Planning protects your mental energy, which is one of the most valuable resources you have. A planned day feels calmer because you no longer waste energy deciding what to do next, and this mental clarity increases your ability to stay focused, disciplined, and productive. Even the act of writing your plan reduces stress, because it transforms vague worries into clear steps, turning emotional overwhelm into strategic action. What once felt heavy now feels achievable, not because the task changed but because your approach to it became organized and intentional. Planning also strengthens your emotional resilience, because structure provides stability during unpredictable moments. When life becomes chaotic, a plan reminds you of what matters most, helping you stay grounded instead of spiraling into stress or distraction. It becomes easier to navigate difficulties because you are not operating from panic. You are operating from clarity. Even when unexpected events arise, a structured mind can adjust without collapsing under pressure. Furthermore, planning creates a sense of control, and control reduces stress. When you know your priorities, your schedule, and your direction, you feel less like life is happening to you and more like you are actively shaping your path. This shift in perspective builds inner peace, because you no longer fear the unknown, you are prepared for it. A calm mind makes better decisions, and better decisions naturally lead to better outcomes. Your mind functions best when it is organized, and planning is the tool that creates that organization. Stress decreases because you are no longer fighting your day, you are guiding it. Mental chaos fades because your thoughts have structure, your responsibilities have order, and your actions have purpose. When you plan, you give yourself the gift of clarity, and with clarity comes focus, stability, and the emotional strength needed to pursue your goals without feeling overwhelmed by the journey. Planning reduces stress not by removing challenges but by equipping you to face them with confidence and calm. Chapter 8. Your life follows the path of your daily decisions. Your life is not shaped by occasional bursts of effort or rare moments of motivation. It is shaped by the decisions you make every single day, because your daily choices slowly but consistently create the direction your life moves in. Every decision, no matter how small, either supports your growth or delays it, either strengthens your discipline or weakens it, either aligns with your goals or pulls you further from them. The future is built quietly, through repeated actions that seem insignificant in the moment but accumulate into powerful long-term results. Many people hope for transformation while continuing to make decisions that maintain their current reality, and this internal conflict creates frustration because desire alone cannot override the consequences of daily habits. If your choices contradict your goals, your life will always feel stuck, but when your choices align with your vision, progress becomes natural. Every day presents you with the opportunity to move closer to the person you want to become, and the decisions you make determine whether you seize that opportunity or let it pass. Your daily decisions form the structure of your character, your discipline, and your identity, because each choice reinforces a pattern. When you repeatedly choose focus over distraction, discipline over comfort, growth over stagnation, you strengthen the identity of someone who follows through, someone who shows up, someone who builds their future intentionally. But when you choose shortcuts, avoidance, procrastination, or habits that weaken your potential, you reinforce the identity of someone who delays their own progress. Identity is shaped through action, and action is shaped through decisions. The path of your life becomes clear when you examine the choices you make without excuses or emotional filters. Do your decisions support your goals? Do your habits reflect your values? Do your priorities match the future you claim to want? These honest questions reveal whether your actions are aligned with your intentions. Progress becomes easier when the answers align, and transformation becomes inevitable when alignment is consistent. Daily decisions also compound over time, meaning small actions that seem insignificant can create enormous results when repeated consistently. Waking up earlier, reading for a few minutes, planning your day, protecting your focus, practicing discipline, or taking small steps toward your goals may not feel life-changing in the moment, but these habits accumulate into powerful momentum. Just as negative habits compound into regret, positive habits compound into growth, and the compounding effect is determined entirely by the decisions you make each day. Your decisions influence more than your actions. They influence your emotions, your confidence, and your sense of control. When you consistently make choices that align with your purpose, your mind becomes calmer because you no longer feel the internal conflict that comes from knowing what you should do but choosing the opposite. Confidence grows when your behavior matches your beliefs, and stability grows when your decisions create predictability and direction. Ultimately, your life is a reflection of your daily decisions, not your intentions. You may dream of success, but it is your daily choices that determine whether you achieve it. You may desire growth, but it is your repeated actions that determine whether you experience it. The path to your future is not written in dramatic moments. It is written in the simple, often unnoticed decisions you make every single day. When you take responsibility for those decisions, you take control of your life. When you align those decisions with your plan, your discipline strengthens. And when your decisions consistently support your vision, your life inevitably moves in the direction you choose, not by chance but by intention. Chapter 9. Review, Adjust, Improve. Progress does not come from repeating the same actions blindly. It comes from consistently reviewing your efforts, adjusting your approach, and improving your strategy so that your growth becomes intentional rather than accidental. Many people create a plan and follow it rigidly, believing that discipline means never changing direction, yet true discipline is the willingness to evaluate what is working, acknowledge what is not, and refine the process instead of forcing an ineffective method simply because it is familiar. Growth requires awareness, and awareness comes from reflection. When you take time to review your progress, you gain clarity on the decisions, habits, and actions that truly move you forward, as well as the ones that slow you down or distract you. This reflection allows you to see patterns you may have missed in the moment, because daily life moves quickly and your mind often focuses on completion rather than understanding. Reviewing gives you perspective, and perspective gives you the power to make smarter, more intentional choices. Without review, you repeat mistakes. With review, you convert mistakes into lessons and lessons into progress. Adjusting your plan is not a sign of weakness or inconsistency, it is a sign of wisdom. Life changes, circumstances shift, responsibilities evolve, and your level of experience grows, which means the plan that worked for you in the past may not be the plan that will carry you into your next stage of development. When you adjust your methods, you are not abandoning your goal, you are refining your path. Improvement requires flexibility, and flexibility allows you to adapt without losing direction. Improvement is a continuous process rather than a final destination, because growth has no finish line. Every adjustment you make strengthens your discipline, sharpens your clarity, and increases the efficiency of your actions. Improvement also reduces frustration, because instead of feeling stuck or discouraged, you give yourself the opportunity to evolve beyond outdated systems that no longer serve your best performance. Progress becomes smoother when you allow improvement to be a natural part of your routine. Review, adjustment, and improvement work together as a cycle that keeps your momentum alive. When you review, you become aware. When you adjust, you become strategic, and when you improve, you become more capable. This cycle prevents stagnation and ensures that your efforts are always aligned with your highest potential. Instead of repeating actions that produce minimal results, You consistently optimize your approach, which leads to growth that is both measurable and sustainable. Most importantly, reviewing your journey builds self-awareness, because you learn how you function under pressure, how you handle distractions, how you respond to setbacks, and what systems bring out your best performance. With this awareness, you can predict challenges before they appear and prepare solutions before they are needed, creating a proactive mindset rather than a reactive one. Improvement becomes easier when you understand yourself deeply. A plan is only powerful when it is alive, evolving, and responsive to your needs. Review keeps it alive, adjustment keeps it relevant, and improvement keeps it effective. When you commit to this cycle, your progress accelerates because you are no longer moving blindly, you are moving intelligently, intentionally, and with clarity. This is how you build a life that grows stronger with time rather than one that repeats the same year over and over. Your future is shaped not only by the goals you set but by your willingness to refine the path that leads to them. Review, adjust, improve, repeat this cycle, and progress will become a predictable outcome rather than a hopeful wish. Chapter 10. Progress is a responsibility, not a wish. Progress is not something that happens to you. It is something you take responsibility for, because growth does not respond to hopes, dreams, or intentions alone. It responds to consistent action, disciplined choices, and the understanding that your future is shaped by what you build, not by what you merely desire. Many people wait for the right moment, the right feeling, or the right circumstances before they begin working toward their goals. Yet the individuals who achieve meaningful success are those who recognize that progress is a duty they owe to themselves, not a luxury they pursue only when life feels convenient. Treating progress as a responsibility means acknowledging that your improvement cannot depend on motivation or external pressure, because these forces rise and fall without warning. Responsibility, however, remains steady. When you take ownership of your progress, you stop looking for excuses and start looking for solutions. You stop waiting for clarity and begin creating clarity. You stop hoping for opportunity and start building opportunity through deliberate action, day after day, even when the results are not immediately visible. Responsibility shifts your mindset from passive to proactive, because it forces you to recognize that your life will only change when you do. Wishing for progress is comforting because it requires nothing from you. Taking responsibility for progress is transformative because it demands commitment, discipline, and consistency. The moment you decide that your growth is in your hands, you gain the power to reshape your habits, your environment, your mindset, and ultimately your entire direction. Progress becomes predictable when responsibility becomes non-negotiable. When you consistently show up for your goals, even with small steps, you create momentum that compounds over time. Each decision to follow your plan, each moment of discipline, each act of intentional effort becomes a brick in the foundation of your future. Responsibility ensures that your actions align with your values and that your outcomes reflect your intentions, rather than the randomness of an unstructured life. Taking responsibility also means acknowledging that setbacks, challenges, and delays are part of the process, not reasons to abandon it. Instead of seeing obstacles as signs to stop, you view them as opportunities to grow stronger, more strategic, and more determined. Responsibility eliminates the habit of blaming circumstances, because you understand that the path may not always be easy, but it is always your path to walk. This mindset builds resilience, and resilience keeps you moving when others give up. Progress requires patience, effort, and sacrifice, but these are not burdens, they are investments. The effort you put in today shapes the confidence you feel tomorrow. The sacrifices you make now create the freedom you enjoy later. The patience you develop becomes the strength that carries you through seasons when results are slow but growth is happening internally. Responsibility transforms these challenges into purposeful steps, because you understand that growth is not supposed to be effortless. It is supposed to be intentional. When you embrace progress as a responsibility, your life becomes more structured, your actions become more meaningful, and your outcomes become more consistent. You stop drifting and start designing. You stop wishing and start building. You stop depending on chance and start depending on your discipline. This shift changes everything because it places your future back into your own hands. Progress is not a wish, it is a commitment. It is the continuous decision to move forward even when it is difficult, to stay focused even when distractions appear, and to keep improving even when you feel tired or discouraged. When you treat progress as a responsibility, success becomes less about luck and more about intention, effort, and consistency. Your life will rise to the level of your standards, and your standards rise when you take full responsibility for who you are becoming. Progress is not accidental, it is earned. And when you commit to earning it, there is no limit to how far you can go. You have now reached the end of this audiobook, and the message is simple, clear, and unchanging. Your progress will always reflect the level of intention, structure, and responsibility you bring into your life. Nothing transforms on its own, nothing improves by accident, and nothing changes until you decide to take ownership of your direction and commit to the daily actions that support your growth. A plan is not merely a tool, it is the foundation of a disciplined life, a focused mind, and a future shaped by deliberate choices rather than uncontrolled circumstances. As you move forward, remember that clarity is your guide, consistency is your strength, and intentional planning is the bridge between who you are now and who you are capable of becoming. Every step you take, every distraction you eliminate, every habit you refine, and every decision you make will either reinforce your progress or delay it. Choose the steps that align with your vision, choose the habits that elevate your character, and choose the mindset that supports long-term growth. Your life will move in the direction of your decisions, and those decisions become powerful when they are backed by a well-structured plan. If this audiobook has helped you shift your perspective, strengthen your discipline, or deepen your understanding of intentional living, make sure to subscribe to Audiobook Sounds, Chasing Greatness, so you never miss future releases designed to support your journey toward clarity, purpose, and success. Continue building, continue planning, and continue showing up with intention, because your progress is your responsibility and your potential is far greater than anything you have already achieved. Your future is waiting for you to design it. Take the next step with confidence, stay committed to your path, and remember always, no plan means no progress, but a life built on intention has no limit.